Time magazine has deemed Evan one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And for those of you who haven't been in Evan's office, he has a saying framed on the wall. It's Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight with you, and then you win." Evan, no one's laughing anymore. All that's left is the fight. And I know that with the support of all of these incredibly attractive people in this room, you and Freedom to Marry will lead us to victory. Ladies and gentlemen, Evan Wolfson.
Thank you. On with the show. Thank you. Well, first let me say thank you, Margaret, for those very generous words. You know, it means so much to have you here with us and celebrating tonight, but it means even more that you're out there in the world making the case so powerfully and effectively on behalf of all of us. Thank you, Margaret. Now, I'm sure most of you know that Freedom to Marry doesn't typically do events. And spectacular events like this 10th anniversary celebration, and you've only just begun to taste it, clearly don't just happen. We have many, many thank yous tonight. First, a thank you to our lead sponsor of the event, Sky Vodka. A thank you to the event chairs, the volunteer committee, and of course, tonight's spectacular artists who've dedicated their time and luminous talent to give us this anniversary celebration. And in particular, a big thank you to the Above and Beyond volunteer producer who brought so much of this together, Peter Spears. I want to extend a big thank you to the Freedom to Marry board members in the room tonight, including our board chairs, Barb Cox and Ann Standback, Jennifer Gerarda-Brown, Rob Coburn, Benjamin Dixon, Otho Kerr, and Jordan Roth. And a special thank you from my heart to the entire Freedom to Marry team that I'm so lucky to lead. Thank you, team, for what you do. Not just tonight, which I had very little to do in putting together because I've got a team. Not just tonight, but every day. And to all of you, don't think I've forgotten all of you. Thank you for joining us at Freedom to Marry's 10th anniversary party. Our movement has a hell of a lot to celebrate. Together, as you've heard, our movement has secured the freedom to marry in 17 states and our nation's capital, up from 0 literally a decade ago. 40% of the American people sharing in the freedom to marry. We've built a strong national majority for marriage, 59% of Americans, now more than double the number when I was doing that Hawaii trial back in the 1990s. And we've built majorities in every region of the country, including the South, majorities among young evangelicals, and a majority of Republicans under the age 45. Together, our movement has built irrefutable momentum to get the job done. With my friends Robbie Kaplan and Edie Windsor and Mary Bonato and the team, we've built and secured a landmark triumph in the Supreme Court last year. And joining that with leadership from the President and the Attorney General, our movement has changed the federal government from being the #1 discriminator against gay people to now respecting our lawful marriages, even in the states that still discriminate. Together, we've brought important protections to families across the country and additional constitutional clarity to our cause. And we've exposed the untenability of the patchwork of discrimination that still burdens families, businesses, and employers and violates the Constitution and basic values of fairness and the Golden Rule. And in this climate we've created, 11 out of 11 federal judges in recent months have ruled for the freedom to marry all across the country, with so far 0 ruling against. And now we head into what may prove to be the penultimate chapter in the campaign to win marriage nationwide, as we begin a wave of arguments and rulings in the federal appellate courts. And as we are in the courts, we're in the court of public opinion. In all kinds of ways, we are showing the next wave of decision makers, elected officials, judges, and yes, the justices of the Supreme Court, that all of America is ready for the freedom to marry. Now that is a lot to celebrate, but there's even more. All of this progress, this joy, this momentum didn't just happen. It wasn't the product of one organization, one person, one case, one state, one battle, or even one decade. We celebrate tonight our movement that made this all so, a movement of non-gay and gay people and organizations taking action. Bloggers and lawyers, donors and strategists, protesters and clergy, labor unions and businesses, campaign volunteers, and lifelong movement activists, kids talking to their parents, and grandparents speaking out for their loved ones, elected officials and judges, millions of conversations, millions of contributions, numerous organizations, countless individual acts of courage and commitment, all part of how change comes to America. This we celebrate tonight. And we celebrate tonight the Freedom to Marry strategy that through this movement's embrace, involvement, and investment brought us this momentum and progress and will bring us to our goal, the freedom to marry nationwide. Freedom to Marry was born to drive the strategy we celebrate, to make of the parts a greater whole, to fill the gaps, and to wake up every day moving marriage forward, no matter how hard some of those days might be, or no matter how many might at one time have doubted it could be done. And even now, with so many organizations doing important parts of the work with hundreds of lawyers on nearly 70 cases in all but 3 of the states where we don't yet have marriage, Freedom to Marry is the only organization singularly focused on winning marriage nationwide. Through a constant balance of leadership and collaboration, through Freedom to Marry's more than 30 operatives throughout the country, and through our credibility and our track record of creativity, resilience, and success, Freedom to Marry is eyes on the prize and feet on the ground as the movement's catalyst, coach, convener, and campaign. Freedom to Marry's central expertise shaped the movement's messaging, shares the movement's best campaign practices, and provides air cover for the movement's coast-to-coast ground game. Our Digital Action Center is the social media presence and voice of state campaigns across the country. And our press room's crack communications team ensures that local and diverse stories and messengers create that climate needed to persuade the public and decision makers. Freedom to Marry paved a pathway for the president's moral leadership and enlisted voices from conservative Republican former Senator Alan Simpson to civil rights icons Dolores Huerta and Democratic Congressman John Lewis, all voices who are permission givers, helping more Americans to, in Lincoln's words, think anew. Alongside campaign coalitions that we've convened in crucial battleground states, Freedom to Marry has spearheaded and launched with partners smart, diverse, and substantive national campaigns. Campaigns like Mayors for the Freedom to Marry, Young Conservatives for the Freedom to Marry, Southerners for the Freedom to Marry, Familia es Familia. On the Democratic side, the Say I Do platform push, and just last week, on the Republican side, the Reform the Platform campaign. And thanks to the generosity of our supporters, who understand the value of a central campaign, I'm proud to be able to say that Freedom to Marry has become the largest funder of marriage work in the country, investing more investing more than $13 million directly each year and leveraging millions more. And I'm proud also to be able to say, of importance to you, that uniquely every single dollar given to Freedom to Marry goes to, yes, winning marriage and the joy we can share of spreading love and greater happiness. Tonight, this is what we celebrate. But together we also recommit to the work of finishing the job we started. You are part of the movement, part of this success, part of this strategy, part of Freedom to Marry. We need you to keep fueling our campaign, the strategy, the expertise, and the work that have brought victory within reach. And so I thank you for your continuing engagement, for your tenacity, for your commitment, for your contributions, past, present, and future. And I thank you for joining us at this 10th anniversary party for Freedom to Marry. With your help, we're determined there will be no 15th.